Episode 14, and as I'm hitting record, Craig was just about to ask a question because his timing is always impeccable. So why don't you go ahead, Riv? Elliotte Friedman with us, as everybody knows. Like, I don't know what – Elliotte, you've been doing podcasts for a long time. Craig, hold off on your question because I really don't care about it. You've been doing podcasts for a long time. Do I have to say who my guest is? It's not like live radio where you're like, we're joined right now, where someone could click on and say, oh, I wonder who they're talking to. I don't recognize the voice, where you have to reset, say who it is, say what station you are and what you're talking about. Whereas this is like, if you choose to pick listening to After the Whistle, you know what you're clicking, you know who's on because it's in the headline.
There's also, there's a description there too, right? Like, this is our guest and they're on from this time until this time. So I just think it's never a bad thing to do it once at the beginning and maybe once during it, but it's not as much as radio for sure. I agree with you on that.
Okay. All right. Well, now, Craig, you can have the floor.
I don't even remember what I was going to say. Good morning, Elliotte. always puts a smile on my face to see Elliotte. You know, everything's all good and got lots to talk about. We weren't able to. You were busy last week, and you know, we always miss you having on because you have so much information. But let's fire away.
Not even your information. I just love your perspective. And I got one. I got a bomb I want to drop on you right away, Elliotte.
Okay.
I mean, okay. Who wants to buy the Penguins when Crosby and Malkin are at the end? Like, you're going to buy really high because they have a new building, but good luck filling it when they start losing and rebuilding in a couple of years.
Here's what you're missing in this.
Oh, I like that. I'm missing something.
Okay. Right now, all of these things are, first of all, you still have Crosby for a few more years. And secondly, you know they're going to be aggressive. Like, for example, say they don't re-sign Malkin and Letang for argument's sake. That money's going to go somewhere. They're going to sign someone. They're not going to be excited about, you know, just being a bad team for 5 years. They're still going to have Crosby, and that's going to attract people there. So that's number one. Number two, this is all about content. You know, what Fenway Sports Group is doing is they've got the Red Sox, they've got Liverpool. They're going to add the Penguins, assuming something weird doesn't happen. And from what I've heard, Andrew, they're not done yet. You know, they could add a basketball team. NFL ownership is a little bit complicated, but they'll be looking at that kind of a thing too. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to grow. And eventually, like, this is, if you're really into the business of sports, you're kind of aware of this story. The whole way that sports is going to be distributed to people is about to change. People are cord cutting. Some of these regional TV deals, some of these networks are in big financial trouble. So what could happen is Fenway Sports Group could eventually say, look, if you want to watch Liverpool, if you want to watch the Red Sox, if you want to watch the Penguins, if you want to watch whatever else we buy, you're going to do it on the Fenway Sports Group app. So it's not only buying the team, it's a content play as much as anything else is too. So, and, you know, on Saturday night, you know, we reported that before going to the Penguins, Fenway asked Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, the owner of the Leafs, the Raptors, Toronto FC, the Argonauts, and the arena, and a lot of land, would you be interested in a merger? So we might be seeing a lot more of these, Andrew.
What kind of cash do they have?
They got money.
Well, I mean, if you're...
Sounds like they have a lot of money.
Yeah, they got money.
Liverpool, you know, I guess my question where I would go with this is, you know, you have a 34-year-old Sidney Crosby, you have a 35-year-old Evgeny Malkin, you know, Chris Letang has been one of my favorite defensemen in the National Hockey League, is 34. At what point in time do you start to restock the cupboards and redo this whole thing? And you know, essentially, you know, a long time ago, this was a long time ago, 12, 13 years ago, they picked Marc-Andre Fleury first overall. And they followed it up with a Evgeny Malkin second overall. Then they picked a Sidney Crosby first overall. And then they picked Jordan Staal third overall. And they started from scratch. It was a very bad team for a long time, but they were patient and 3 Stanley Cups later, I think they're very happy with what they've done. And I think a new group that's coming in, could you see them, trade away these superstar Hall of Fame hockey players to stock the cupboard and do it all over again?
Well, the one thing about Crosby you have to remember is that he's still under contract for a while. Crosby, his contract, I'm just
at a
looking
reasonable price.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, any price for Sidney Crosby is a reasonable price. Connor McDavid's making $12.5 million. I'd still argue he's underpaid, for argument's sake. So Crosby's got 3 more years after this one under contract, and his cap hit is 8.7. His actual salary is $3 million a year. So if you're Pittsburgh, you can do a lot with that kind of thing. Now, you're right, Craig. There's a decision to be made on Letang. There's a decision to be made on Malkin, and those are big decisions. But if I have Sidney Crosby for 3 more years, a guy who's still very near the top of his game, I'm going around to people and I'm saying, look, we can do things with Sidney Crosby. And now we'll see if this changes too. But the Penguins' ultimate mentality has also been, as long as we have Crosby and Malkin and Letang, we're going for it. So do you think that's going to change at all in 3 years? I don't necessarily think that's going to. Now, do I think that Ron Hextall was hired partly because he knows how to find prospects and find players? Yes, I do. I think the Penguins realize at some point in time they're going to have... And
Brian Burke.
Well, Burke is just there to talk to people so Hextall doesn't have to.
Okay, great. But
Hextall knows how to find players. He does. And that's what they're there for.
There's a lot of hockey knowledge that has been doing this a very long time.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, if you want to restart your organization, you need guys that know hockey, that have been doing this a very long time. And whether Brian Burke is the face and he's out talking to all the people, so Ron Hextall doesn't, there's still a lot of information coming in. And
yes,
I just look at Pittsburgh and I just think, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I don't think that Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, the Chris Letang, these guys 5-6 years ago were the elite of the elite in the National Hockey League. Pittsburgh was considered the top 2-3 teams in the league. For me, I do not see them ever coming close to winning a Stanley Cup. I don't think. Now, listen, I know they're great players and they're stars, but I don't think the internal drive to win a Stanley Cup is the same, because they've already won 3 and they're 35 years old.
You're wrong. I think you're wrong there, because I think they would like to try to maybe win 1 more in the next year or 2 with those 2 guys. Then maybe
don't have a chance. They do not have a chance.
I don't know. You'll never have an issue bringing. I don't want this whole thing to be about Pittsburgh, but I mean, you'll never have an issue bringing any players in as long as Crosby and Malkin are there. Okay, ever. Right? Because everybody wants to play with those guys. Because if you play with them, you got a chance to win. Now, if Pittsburgh sucks, no one wants to go to Pittsburgh. I'm just saying that right now. But because they're there, anybody will go there. And because they're there, they always have a chance, in my opinion. Now, Elliotte, I didn't want to start that off by making it sound like what sucker would buy the Pens. You know what I mean? Like Slapshot, but I just look at those 2 players getting older, and that's just basically where I went from that. And you said something that was interesting. If you're into the business of sports, and I love the business of sports, but I love this conversation, and it all sparked from my ignorance, I guess. So sometimes they say, ignorance can be beneficial. Look how much information we got out of Elliotte Riv right there. I don't want to make every show about the Sabres and Jack Eichel just because we live in Buffalo, but we haven't had you on in a couple weeks for whatever circumstances. What's the latest on Eichel's neck? Is there an update?
I believe he was, I don't know where he is right now, but he had the surgery and he was supposed to go to Carolina to do rehab there with his guy.
And that's just where it is. He's something like he'll start rehab or training or whatever.
I believe he started rehab and training already, and we'll see how soon he can get on the ice. I mean,
how does that work? It would be interesting to know a little bit more information when you talk about rehab. Is Jack able to move his neck? Is he able to? So,
As
so
far as I
how is
know,
the rehab? Like
well, the
when you
thing,
have
like,
a disc replacement in your
yeah,
neck, describe to me, like, because I remember when I've had both my shoulders done, I've had my knee done, I've had wrist. You're usually in a cast or a sling for 6 weeks or whatever, and you can't
mhm.
move it. And how is it with a disc replacement? How, like, is Jack able to move his neck? Is like, how is
Yes,
the,
he is. I don't know exactly everything, Craig, so I'd hate to guess. Um, I think that what I was told was it's outpatient surgery. Like he didn't have to go, he didn't have to stay in the hospital after he had the surgery.
wow.
So he had outpatient surgery, and then I believe it was in Denver. I think it's out there, but I just off the top of my head, I believe it was in Denver. And I think he was staying in that area for a few days just to make sure there were no complications. And then he was supposed to go to Carolina because that's where I guess his guru on this, Dr. Mark Lindsay, is right now. So that's where he was supposed to go to train with him. Now, as for how hard the training is or what it is exactly, I can't answer that. But the basically it's not like an old school neck surgery where you got the surgery and then you were immobilized for a while. Now, is he going around throwing cars around a parking lot? I would assume he's probably not. But I do think there's more that you're allowed to do in the short term after this surgery as opposed to, say, like a fusion.
I have other
I just want
questions.
to say one second, Andrew,
Yeah.
like I hope it works. I'll tell you guys
Yeah.
something. Like I've gotten a few DMs from Sabres fans who are not happy with me right now. And that's okay. Like I think everybody has their opinion. I don't have any problem with it. And Sabres fans are some of the greatest in the NHL. So I appreciate the fact that they're, reading and following, even if they don't like what I have to say. They feel that not all of them, some of them feel that I've been too biased in favor of Eichel throughout this process. And, what I've said to a couple of them, because I've engaged with a couple who've been really good to talk to. And I've just said, look, like, I just think it was wrong in this situation that he couldn't get the care he wanted. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I felt very passionately about it. But now, now this is where what really the whole thing is that, Jack Eichel fought for this process. Now the Sabres weren't crazy about it for sure. Now we're going to find out if it works. And, the one thing is that I do want it to work.
Yeah.
It's a young person's career. It's a young person's life. I want it to work, but we don't know. Like we're in uncharted territory here, guys. We don't
Yeah.
know.
And you know what? When we say we hope it works, it's not going to be even watching Jack right away. It could take years. You want to make sure that I hope that Jack, for his sake, it was an enjoyment for me to be able to watch Jack here in Buffalo because he did some things with that puck and the way that he plays the game. He is an extremely exciting hockey player. And I hope that he has a long career ahead of him. But it's when you talk about, I hope it works.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to look 2, 3, 4 years down the line. And hopefully he does not have lingering issues that hold him out because of the next situation. You hope that he can get healthy and put it all behind him and have a long career.
Yeah.
I agree.
You always, what were we going to say, Elliot? I don't want to cut you
Well,
off.
I was just going to say, like, I'm that first hit, right? Like Craig, you were a headhunter when you played. You looked for the injured guys and wanted to knock their brains out. So
that was just reputation, wasn't it, Elliot?
Wow. Like,
it's amazing. And guys like me wanted to deal with it, but he wouldn't go near guys like me, Elliot.
No, but no, I was kidding about that. But he's going to take his first big hit, and we're all going to be looking at it and saying, okay, like, we hope this holds. Like that, at the end of the day, like,
I'm going to tell you
people
this.
to be healthy and do well. That's
my mentality, which I think was the mentality of a large part of the league, by the way. It was not just me. And you said, understanding when guys are injured. And you knew that when guys had maybe a certain back injury or something going on, we knew about it. And I'm not saying that we targeted players, but we targeted players because that's what you did. You had to be hard on players that you knew had injuries. And, when in Jack's situation, for me, if I was a player, I would not want to be the first player in the National Hockey League to put a big check on Jack Eichel. And that's just me. Like, I just think a neck is very, very different than a bad shoulder or, a hip or a knee or something like that. I just feel like, I don't know. I don't know the mentality of the players nowadays, but,
you certainly don't want to be responsible for potentially paralyzing a player.
Yeah.
Like if you knock him out because you dislocate his shoulder or he ends up cracking a rib or something, that's one thing. But the other, I completely understand.
You know what I'm saying? Like a neck is very different. A neck is very different. And like you said, Elliotte, I hope that he can come back. I hope that he can get healthy, and I hope that he can do great things for Vegas. I don't want Jack not to do well. I would never want an individual player to do well. It didn't work out here in Buffalo. He gave what he could. It didn't work out here in Buffalo. Move on. And you know what? I really like what the Sabres and Kevin Adams did with that trade, and I think it's going to be great. So move on.
There's not a game in Buffalo that I am looking forward to more than Jack Eichel's return because your inbox, which I want to know what the DM said, by the way, Elliotte, but but your inbox is the exact reason, because I think it's a 50-50 split here on how people feel about the Eichel saga. And it's like, I have a quote here. I said, Elliotte, if they brought everybody to from Western New York for a parade for Jack out of town, I said half would hold his jerseys up and had the other half would be giving him the bird.
But that's sports, right? Like that's fandom.
It is sports, and it's interesting because you said that about I read your 31 thoughts, and you were talking about John Tortorella's comments too, and you're like, if that happens on the NBA channel with Shaq and Barkley, everyone's laughing and having fun with it, but Tortorella makes the comment about McDavid's got to change his game, and Craig actually talked about it that night when it happened, and we had a very interesting conversation about it. And people just want to rip his head off. I mean, it's like, but that's why I want to know what your inbox said, the DMs. It's like, because people
I believe,
are
like,
vicious.
I want to say this. Like, I do want to say this. The vast majority of the DMs were really reasonable. Like they were.
Yeah.
You always get a couple that are, way over the line, and that happens. But I got a few Sabres fans who I think you're too biased in favor of Eichel. Yeah. And if you're reasonable, I will try. Like, I can't engage with everybody. I'd like to, I can't. But there were a couple of people who I thought were really reasonable, and I engaged with them and I explained my position, and they were good about it. They appreciated I engaged with them. But I get it. Like, I know how much Buffalo loves the Sabres. I get it. Like, I do.
Buffalo is hockey intelligence. I'm going to tell you, it's a small market, but they have a huge, huge following, and they're not delusional in their team. They're hockey fans. Buffalo is an incredible market. It's one of the best in the National Hockey League. And you can actually, like, people are, with our podcast now, and they're tweeting us, and I read a lot of the comments, and they're good, constructive comments, whether it's a little criticism and what we're saying. I love that, and it's great. The fans here in Buffalo really
they're great fans.
They're great fans. But I'm going to tell you this, Petey, you said it was a 50-50 split. Okay, I believe it's a 33.
And what's the
other one? What's the other 1%?
What's the other 1/3?
They don't follow hockey.
The other 33 are that they don't care. They think that the Sabres screwed it up.
I got to tell you, I bet you much less than 33%.
Really?
Care. Yes.
Interesting.
Because people love the point I'm making is that people love the Sabres. They love this. They love hockey. They're frustrated with the Sabres right now, but they love hockey. For the people who are listening to this, there's no way that 33% of Sabres fans don't care about this. No way. No way.
Well, when I say don't care, it's like you have
maybe they're tired of it.
33% are
They are
extremely pissed off right now at the Sabres. What a bunch of idiots for trading Jack Eichel. Then there's the other 33% that they're like, we're getting Peyton Krebs. We're getting Alex Tuck. We're getting a first-round draft pick. We need Jack gone so we can start this thing fresh. Because
that's what I agree with.
Okay, but then there's the other 33% that's sitting there going, you know what? I'm just going to be Humpty Dumpty here. I don't really – they screwed up on Jack, but at the same time, they really don't care that they traded him. And they're just, you know what? Let's move on and just be happy. That's the other 33%. I think there's a pretty big percentage in that too.
I think the Buffalo fans listening to this podcast right now are probably irritated that we're talking about Jack again. In my opinion, that's what I feel, Elliotte. I feel like people want to. I do. I think people want to move past it.
Guy's a
so
generational talent that's been here for 6 years, and even though he's not here anymore, they're always going to be following Jack because Jack was the best hockey player to play in this uniform in a very, very long time. It just did not work out, and that's okay. You don't think that the Sabres fans are going to be watching Vegas Golden Knights?
When Jack is in, I'll be watching Vegas when Jack is in Vegas. I will. I will. I watched before, coincidentally enough, or ironically enough, or whatever you want to call it, because of Tuck. But I will definitely watch a Vegas game now with Jack there to see what happens.
They're a pretty fun team to watch too, actually.
They are.
Wait till that team gets healthy.
Yeah.
When they're all healthy. Wow.
I think the other thing too is, and like generally, while I disagree with how this thing was handled, I think Buffalo's done a lot of really smart things. I generally feel that Adams, he strikes me as a guy right now who's kind of willing to say, I know what I don't know. And I think that's a really smart question that good executives ask. What don't I know and how do I find out about it? Jason Karmanos is a guy who has a really good reputation for knowing the league. Sam Ventura, who you hired to run your analytics department, he has a really good reputation. Like, one of the things I've learned about the analytics community, guys, is that it's very cutthroat. Like, I think the media business is very cutthroat. And I've learned that the analytics business is very cutthroat because as the influence grows, there's a lot of people there who say, okay, my model's good. This other person, they suck. They don't know what they're talking about. And so when people say have a lot of good things said about them, I tend to believe they really know what they're doing. And Sam Ventura is one of those people. So like, I agree with you. I think it was important for them. And, I'll say something else too about Don Granato. One of the things that a few other teams have told me is that it's noticeable how much better Buffalo looks in terms of the way they play. The results aren't always there, and I think we all kind of understand why that is. But and you guys know this better than me, they say the structure, the players knowing what their roles are, it's noticeably improved for the Sabres.
It's attitude. You can see when these players are playing on the ice that they're actually enjoying themselves. They enjoy working hard. They enjoy working for one another. If they lose, they all lose together. If they win, they all win together. It seems like they're having fun. And let me tell you, when you watch them play, there's over half the players will not be on this team in 2 years.
That's possible.
Like well over half, but they're enjoying themselves. They're working hard, and Don Granato, like I just said to Petey before the podcast today, I watched the Rangers game last night. Oh my Lord, I can't even believe, like, it's like, what is going on here with Buffalo sports on Sunday? Bills get smoked and the Sabres lose with 0.7 seconds left. I'm like, what the heck? But I just said to Petey, I'm like, I can't believe how well this team plays with what they have, and I'm not disrespecting any of the players on the team, but with what Don Granato is working with and dealing with, he's done an exceptional job. The coaching staff has done an exceptional job.
Very complimentary comment, almost like a backhanded compliment, eh, Elliot? I mean,
No. I understand what
I know.
Then you want me to tell you what the second part when Elliotte got on?
Of course, that's the part that we want to hear.
Well,
you didn't like the decisions of two of the players that were on the ice at the end of the game.
It's ridiculous.
Okay. Who were they?
I'm sorry, but when you're 1 minute left in a game, there are certain players that should not be on the ice. And I repeat, should not be on the ice. And one of them is 100 minus 132 in his career. Minus 132 in his career.
Who is that?
And he's on the ice.
Jeff Skinner.
You can go figure it out. I mean, Victor Olofsson is a power play specialist. He's extremely talented. He's a great hockey player. But tell me why Zemgus Girgenson's not on the ice. Tell me why Calaposo is not on the ice. Please. 1 minute left in the game.
We'll have to discuss that.
There's nothing to discuss. It's a wrong move.
Okay.
And it cost.
You know what? Sometimes I like to rewatch the end of games when someone brings that up just to see what the flow was. I checked the play-by-play. There wasn't an icing. I'd have to relook at that. No question.
But here's the thing: even if the Rangers wouldn't have scored that goal, let's say they didn't score the goal, it is still a wrong move. You do not have those two players on the ice. If we're trying to score a goal, get them on the ice. Get those two players on the ice. I have no problem with that. But when you're trying to defend or make sure that you're not going to be scored on the last minute of the game, those are two players that should not be on the ice.
Okay, we literally only have a couple more minutes with Elliotte. Let's not waste it talking about the Sabres. I mean, that stuff, that's all. He doesn't want to talk just about the Sabres. Like I
talk about whatever. It's your podcast.
Well, I know, and you're very kind with that. And I know we don't want to take too much more of your time because we know that you're busy. But I just want to know if the league could be looking at a fake vaccination card situation here. River's telling me about Antonio Brown. You got the Ottawa Senators. Like, what makes us believe?
Well, that's why Evander Kane was suspended, right?
Yeah. That's the thing.
And you heard about the situation with Antonio Brown.
I heard that, but
in Tampa Bay,
they're denying it, right? Like I guess there was a report yesterday that Jay Glazer said that someone saw him get someone should just check what Jay Glazer's report was, but he basically threw cold water on that.
Okay, so let me
explain. When the Keane thing happened, I did ask if there were any other active investigations underway into fake vaccination cards, and I was told no. So maybe I should check again. I mean, I did have people say to me, you can't imagine that he's the only one. But I asked if there were any other investigations, and I heard no, and I haven't heard anything else like that at this point in time.
One thing I've heard, that I didn't think I did not think that as we were slowly being able to get fans back into the stands, Elliotte, that we would have attendance concerns in the NHL.
Yeah.
How big are the attendance concerns with, number one, the escrow situation and the salary cap and all that stuff? Like, how concerned is everyone with the attendance right now?
Well, I think one thing I'm learning is that attendance right now in person is not just a hockey problem. It's like an everywhere problem. The NBA is worried about it. Even the NFL's been worried about it. There's a lot of things here. There's a lot of things. It's, first of all, like if you're worried about your kids not being vaccinated, there's people who won't go to games for that. There's people who won't go to games because they don't want to be masked up the entire time. Some arenas won't let unvaccinated people in them. Some people just aren't comfortable being in big crowds. Someone pointed out to me, millions of people have died of COVID, and those are people who had tickets or maybe were fans. So, and then there's the other factor of, did people find that, there are other things they wanted to do with their lives, or they feel they're being priced out of games? Like, it's a big deal. I think the honest truth right now, Andrew, is that I don't think we know what the answers to all these questions are yet. I don't think we know where this is going. But the one thing I do hear a lot of, this is a bad year to have a bad year. Because
what do you mean by that?
well, like if you want people to come back into your building, are you either you got to have Connor McDavid in there every night that says people, I want to come into watch this guy play, or you got to have a good team. Like if you have a bad team this year, it's a really bad year to have a bad team.
I couldn't believe
not only
that
are people not going to come this year, you're worried about your season tickets for next year.
When Michael Jordan was playing and he was playing against a bad team where fans wouldn't go out and watch because the team sucked and maybe they were playing a team that they weren't interested in, the place was full to see Michael Jordan.
Yes, 100%.
I could not believe that even with the mandatory vaccination rules here in Buffalo and some of the other places that we've seen, that Connor McDavid cannot sell out a hockey market like Buffalo. I was blown away. I was like, it'd be nice to see the building full. And it wasn't
also
even close.
Hurts that how many of those, because I guess that Canadian fans can come next week,
yes,
right?
Next,
like that
November
hurts too.
30th.
Like
yeah,
how many people from just over the border would have come pouring in to see Connor McDavid?
30% of the fans that are in the building, I think, come from Canada, correct?
Yeah.
But even with those tickets being available to hockey fans here in this market, I couldn't believe that. I just couldn't believe McDavid. Like I guess maybe I'm naive. I don't to think that a player of that caliber, the greatest player maybe to ever play now, is starting to maybe tweak my mindset toward it. Can't sell out stadiums on his own with Draisaitl.
It's a great question.
It's so weird to me because to me it was always, it wouldn't even be back in the day. You'd think that who's here tonight? Gretzky's here tonight. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't even forget the team he was on. Gretzky's here. Lindros is here.
Yep.
Lemieux's here.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And to me, I thought it was interesting. What is your biggest story going into your 32 thoughts this week? And I like the little thing at the end there because you have a lot of people wondering if your blog's coming to an end.
Yeah, no, it's not. Last month was a little bit crazy. You know what? I don't know yet. I'm going to make some calls today. I mean, Vancouver's still a big story. They played pretty well last night, but they still lost, and it's not a time for moral victories. I don't know. I think there's some things like I haven't had a lot of time to look at, trade rumors and stuff like that lately, or what might be going on in certain situations. But I think there are some teams, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about with attendance. I think there are some teams that are thinking about what we're going to do if this doesn't turn around quicker, and that's kind of where we are.
Well, I'll tell you where we are. We're at the end of our time with you. And we appreciate it as always, Elliotte. It's always fantastic. Hair looks. You got a lot of comments in the last one when you came on. I mean, it was a solid barrage of direct blows.
I like that. I like people having fun with that.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask one question before you go?
Yeah.
I just want to ask about the Calgary Flames.
Okay.
It for me, a team, a little bit of an eyebrow raise. They really kind of seemed to struggle with identity, and their top players were, unhappy. And there was a lot of talk about trades, and Johnny Gaudreau could be gone, and Monahan. What's going on there?
I think there's a couple things. Number one, Markstrom is back on his game, and even the young kid Vladar, that's actually been huge for them. The one thing about Sutter, is that he plays a certain way and he makes it hard to score. And if you don't do it well, I remember Harry Neal, one of the reasons he always said that Scotty Bowman was one of the best coaches was because Scotty Bowman said, you knew if you played for Scotty Bowman, if you didn't play well in the first 10 minutes, you weren't getting, it's not your night, I'm not going with you, right? And I think Sutter's got a little bit of that. That guy's not going tonight. He's not going to play very much. What does he demand? He demands you protect the house and you forecheck hard. And what are they doing right now? They're protecting the house and they're forechecking hard. They've bought in. And the other thing, too, is they have a defenseman there, Oliver Shillington. So last year, that guy's on waivers. This year, he's been one of their best defensemen. Sutter clearly walked in there and said, okay, guys, clean slate, but if you play hard, you're going to play. And I think those guys see it.
It's the best thing a coach can say. It's the best thing a coach can say. You watching any Curb? You watching Curb, Elliot?
You know what? I haven't had time to watch. I've been watching during hockey season. You watch a lot of games. I'm watching Succession. I'm
Okay.
watching Yellowstone, and I've got to start catching up on Curb. I heard the episode. I didn't hear about last night, but I heard last week was incredible.
Okay, last week was incredible.
Don't
how many
ruin it.
How
Don't
many
ruin it.
seasons are
This is the 11th season, and there are 4
11.
episodes in. Last week, I didn't see last night. Last week, absolutely incredible. But the week before that, Leon comes up with this idea. It's the show. It's Minibar. The episode title is Minibar. That's the episode title. It's Minibar.
This is offside.
It's too much information.
Yeah,
okay.
It's offside.
His invention for the minibar.
Oh, come on, stop it.
Had me
bye.
absolutely pissing myself laughing all by myself at home.
Are you kidding me? Elliot just clicked off our show. You just ruined Curb for him. Well done.
Well, that's what's amazing is I actually haven't ruined anything. But do you want to know what happened? Because you don't care.
Okay, but stop for a second. Let's just go. How many seasons of Curb are there?
11.
Okay. And when was there that time lapse where it went like it started in what?
It was
what
between
year?
episodes or seasons
7, I think.
No, it was seasons either 9 and 10, or it wasn't 10 and 11. It might have been 8 and 9. There was like 10 years in between.
Okay. Yeah. Because do you remember we were talking about this a long time ago, and I started. And
I made a big mistake telling you to go all the way back.
I ended up watching all of them.
Yeah.
And then I skipped the 10 years and started I think I watched the first season after the 10-year skip. So I've got to do some catching up on this Curb because I really liked it. I thought it was unreal.
Leon Black is the best character I think ever written into any show in the history of shows. So just know that. And this season right now it's unbelievable. That's all I'll say. I don't know how you spoil it, like, because Curb has so many different storylines going on within the show, and then much like Seinfeld, right at the end, they all circle back and it all connects. I saw Jerry Seinfeld do stand up probably. I don't know. I think I was living in Rochester back in 2010, 11, when I was doing a short stint with the Amherst. And I remember going there and he started, and I don't remember him swearing at all, to be honest with you. I think the whole thing was clean and you never knew where he was going. And he just kept these stories just kept on moving on and moving on and moving on, and then all of a sudden he wraps it all up and he goes, and that's how, all the way back to the start. So it's all, and then you kind of realize it's all one big kind of, it's not just like a bunch of different, like a lot of comedians you'll see, they'll get up there and they'll go and they'll hit their points and then they'll transition, but they transition so well. But this was all connected, and the same with the Curb episode. You have so many different things going on, but then they're all connected somehow, just like Seinfeld.
Well, guess what?
That's what makes it so brilliant.
I was going to go blow some leaves. That was the big part of my day today.
No, enjoy your glorious Monday. It might be the last one you have.
Yeah, I think I'm going to watch some Curb.
All right. Well, on that note, listen, I'm just going to say this, and we're leaving this on. I'm not editing this out. Next time we have Elliotte on, if we want to talk Sabres or something, but I'm not saying he doesn't want to, but it's like he's got so much other shit that he's up to date on that we can pick his brain on. He doesn't need to hear your thoughts on who should be on the ice and who shouldn't. He doesn't give a shit about that.
Yeah, he does.
Well, he does because he's polite. He does because he's polite. And he does because I think that he's listening, getting your opinion, and I think he values your opinion. But I just think that, we could have utilized that.
You can sit there and listen. He can sit there and listen Sabres. So I can get it off my chest, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just I'm just
I'm
being
clicking out
serious.
too. I'm
Okay.
clicking out.
All right. See ya. Episode 14. That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Thought you were clicking out. I knew you didn't have it in you. I knew, because you know why? You know why you don't want to click out? Because you want to stay on. You want to talk some more after. You're so full of
I
shit.
want to talk some hockey.
You're so full of shit. That's a wrap on another episode of After the Whistle. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, After the Whistle, and at Craig Rivet 52, at the Instigator 76. And you can find us, as you already know, on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and anywhere else where you can get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to spread the word.